Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where you get the inside access to the best minds in the game. Each week, Chris has the privilege of chatting with top instructors, legendary players, course architects, and industry insiders. If you're looking to improve your game, gain a new perspective, or just hear some incredible golf stories, you are indeed in the right place.
You see, Chris, let me tell you something, I haven't spoken to a press man in my life that is knowledgeable, seriously, as you are. Never.
You do such a great job. It kind of makes me feel good all of a sudden.
You do so much for the game. You're so kind to all of us that are out there in the game. You know, we need more people like you in the game of golf.
Thank you for pressing play. Now, grab your clubs, step up to the tee, and let's get started. This is Next on the Tee.
Hi, folks, and welcome into this edition of Next on the Tee, where golf legends live and your game gets better. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and as always, I appreciate you being here and pressing play on this week's show. I'm so excited that I get to share with you 4 great guests that I know you're really going to enjoy. And these guys are going to give you a lot to think about, a lot of great stories, plus a lot of things to smile about on top of all of that as well. Now, I'm going to kick things off with the head golf professional up at Big Canoe in Jasper, Georgia, and that guy is Mike Miller. Mike is also the newly elected vice president of the PGA of Georgia. And speaking of elections, he is also the former mayor of Flowery Branch up in Georgia as well, which is the training camp home of the Atlanta Falcons. Mike shares some fantastic tips that I know that you're really going to enjoy and you're going to get a lot out of. Even if you're buried up there in the snow or in freezing cold temperatures right now. Now, look, Mike is a heck of a putter. He's going to share with us some putting tips. He's a guy that has been in the top 10 of the Georgia Putting Championship twice over the last several years, so he's got some great putting tips for you. Those that you can do right there inside your houses. Get that putting stroke available and ready to go when spring finally rolls around and that's all that snow melts. He also shares a very simple tip, one that makes so much sense that we all should have been doing it all along, but we're probably not. You're going to hear what that tip is right here shortly. Mike also talks about the difficulty and challenges of being a mayor in the social media area, plus all the great things that they have going on up there at Big Canoe, a wonderful place. Like I say, Jasper, Georgia, kind of northwest Georgia, a great facility. Mike joins me here in just a few minutes. Following him, Tom Purtzer is back, and he's going to join me. Now, look, TP has fully embraced AI in his instruction, so much so that, quote-unquote, Tommy Jr. is his AI assistant pro, and he sends drills and reminds you to do the things that you need to do, sends you notes, sends you video lessons if you're still struggling with something, summarizes everything from the lesson that you took with Tom. Look, Tom is a guy who has always been on the cutting edge, but AI is something that concerns me just a little bit with respect to the PGA and LPGA instructors that we talk to. I mean, it gets so good and so lifelike. I'm a little nervous that potentially AI may take over that whole thing. I hope that never, ever happens, that the human element always stays a part of our game, particularly in the instruction section. Tom talks about how he's using AI and how it's working for him. You'll hear about all of that in segment number 2. Now, in part 2 of this week's show, we're going to get our monthly visit from the confidence doctor, Dr. Bob Winters. This time around, Doc updates us on the tremendous success that his students continue to have week after week, month after month, tournament after tournament. I mean, it's so impressive what he is doing with his junior players. Doc will talk about that. We also talk about getting into the proper mindset and getting to yes by persisting through all that negativity. We persist through it. We knock it out of our minds. We're going to get to yes, and we're going to do great things out on the golf course. Doc will take us through all of that in the first part of part 2. And then we're going to round things out with a visit from our good friend Mark Calcavecchia. Mark, this time around, shares his thoughts on the potential that the PGA Tour could be looking at reducing the number of tournaments starting in 2027. He tells the story of sitting with Jack Wolcott, and Jack was the guy out there actually making the old McGregor Persimmon Woods, and Mark had an opportunity to sit with him back in the day. You'll hear that story. He talks about why you're not going to catch him in an autonomous vehicle. He tells a funny story. You'll like that one. And then he also talks about whether he agrees or not with Jack Nicklaus, when Jack used to say that winning a major was easier than winning a regular tournament out on tour because there were only a handful of guys back then who thought they were capable of winning a major. Mark weighs in on that, and he is just so great. You know how great Mark is every time he joins the show. I think you're going to enjoy the additional stories and insights that he shares this time as well. So, folks, thank you again for pressing play and being a part of this week's show. Sit back, relax, let us take your mind off everything else going on in your life for the next couple of hours. Okay, but before we get into all of that, I want to start off by giving a shout-out to my great friends over at the Trib. TribLive.com is the leading news website in Western Pennsylvania, with news around the clock, Pittsburgh pro sports coverage, a high school sports network, and a podcast network, which is where you can find Next on the Tee. Bookmark TribLive.com or download the Trib Live app for free and stay up to date with the latest news from Western Pennsylvania and beyond. I also want to talk about our friends over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company and Iron City Beer, a brand that I have loved my whole life and started drinking when I was 21 years old, of course. Whether you're a hacker or a scratcher, the secret to a successful day on the links is knowing when it's time to grab an iron, even if that means keeping it in the bag till the 19th hole. If it's been a while since you've reached for Pittsburgh staple beer, it's time to revisit Iron City. Thanks to their incredible new facility in Creighton, the best-tasting Iron City beer ever made is now available at a course near you. Iron City pairs well with any lie and sky and serves as a friendly reminder that there's always next round. And because it's never too early for chocolate, their double chocolate Bock is back for the season, and it's the perfect companion for a cozy winter evening. Check out all of their wonderful beers and their gift shop online by going to pittsburghbrewing.com. And this year, get ready to experience a game like never before at the Keep, the brand new Bill Bergen and Reese Jones co-designed course at Macklemore. Nestled high atop Lookout Mountain, the Keep offers breathtaking vistas that are made even more spectacular as the autumn colors paint the landscape in rich hues of red, orange, and gold. With its challenging layout and awe-inspiring views, every round here is an unforgettable adventure. Whether you're taking on the signature holes or just soaking in the scenery, the Keep is where your best golf meets nature's finest backdrop. So grab your clubs and join us up at Macklemore. The Keep is open and it's waiting for you. Okay, now making his Next on the Tee debut with me is Mike Miller. Mike is the head golf professional at Big Canoe Golf Club in Jasper, Georgia. He's also been the assistant or head pro at places around Georgia like the Orchard Golf and Country Club in Clarksville, Legacy on Lake Lanier, and St. Marlowe Golf Course in Duluth, Georgia. Mike is also the newly elected vice president of the PGA of Georgia. He's also very competitive in PGA tournaments around the state, which we'll get into here in just a moment. And I'm excited that I get to have him this week here on Next on the Tee. Happy New Year, Mike. Thanks for coming on the show.
Happy New Year to you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. So, Mike, I want to start things off on this new year, helping our listeners with 2026 becoming the best golf season that they've ever had. The weather's been a lot warmer than we're usually used to around this time of year. So we're able to get out, practice a little bit more than we normally would. But I want to start off on the greens because a lot of us lose a lot of strokes on the greens with our putting skills. We can always use to get a little bit better. So I wanted to get from you, what are some putting drills that you recommend that people do so that when we do emerge from winter, that we're able to make more putts?
Yes, sir. That's a hot topic and always glad to help. My biggest thing with putting is I love the mirror. The mirror that you can buy it online. I think they're about $35. Just it sets the eyes in the right spot. And people laugh at me when I say that's the most important part to me about the putting setup. You got to get those eyes over or just inside of the ball, in my opinion. Most people will set up with, when they get on that mirror, if you're familiar with the mirror, a lot of times they're not even on the mirror. They're like, I don't see my eyes. And so we fix their posture and get that posture with the eyes a little more over the ball. And I think that the reason for that is probably 90% of the putters that I see that come to me and say, what can I do to help my putting? Their putter's too long for them. When
Really?
your putter's too long, when your putter's too long, you're going to stand too far upright those eyes are going to get so far inside the ball that that path is going to be so far inside, and your body's going to try and naturally correct it. And depending on how it decides to correct it, depends on which way that ball is going to go.
So from a length perspective, obviously you got to be doing something, right, to be able to check to see, do I need a 34, 35, 36, whatever it is, length putter and putter shaft. Do you look at it from a length that way, or do you more adjust hands up and down the grip to kind of shorten the stroke?
All of that. So I like, when I'm fitting a putter, I like to use a putter that doesn't even have a grip on it and tell them to grip it where it's comfortable. And so then they don't have the reference of that grip to bias their opinion. I heard from some folks with Never Compromise that the standard putter that you find, and I'm sure everyone knows this, if you go into PGA Tour Superstore or your local pro shop or wherever, every putter in there, if it's for men, it's 34 or 35 inches, and ladies is 33. And the question was asked, why? Why is that the standard? And because years ago, apparently one company decided that that's what fit best into the golf bag. It had nothing to do with the golfer or performance.
Yeah.
And so as you come around and get into these fitting and get people into a proper position for the putting stroke, and you take that grip off of there and let them just grip that ungripped shaft on the putter and tell them get in a comfortable position, almost every time it's shorter than they think it is, than it should be, or what they've used.
Yeah, I love that idea. Mike, speaking of putting, staying on that topic, you've had some great success at the Georgia Putting Championships. You finished in the top 7 twice, finished third back in 2021, and a guy I took some lessons with here locally, Ted Ford, actually finished second that year. Shout out to both you and Ted. But talk about competing in that tournament and playing it there at the Bobby Jones Golf Club.
Oh, yeah. Bobby Jones is a great facility, and I guess it'd be in Midtown Atlanta. They've got the putting green out there out front, and it's got some treacherous undulation, if you want to call it that. Fun time out there, and you better be able to read a putting green to do well on that putting course that they have out there. But it's fun time. I love that in that it isolates that one part of the golf game, the putting. When I first got into golf, putting was my weakest. My first job in the golf industry, I told a couple of kids in the neighborhood, we'll have a putting contest this afternoon, and if you beat me, I'll buy you a Coke. And the next day, they both beat me. The 2 kids brought back 2 friends. They said, this is an easy Coke to get. So by the end of the week, I'd lost about $20, and they were only about $1 a Coke. And so I figured I better either get better at putting or stop betting Cokes with these kids. So I figured out, went to the local guy that was the putting guru supposedly, and he took a look at me and told me to putt some, and he said, brother, you don't have a putting problem, you got a vision problem. And come to find out, and that's another thing, back on your first question about things we can do this off season, identify your dominant eye. I had no clue what my dominant eye was. Once he explained it, showed it to me, and I started marking the ball and lining it up with only my dominant eye, my putting changed overnight. So that would be my biggest tip to anyone out there that's wanting to get better or struggles with putting or feels like they struggle reading greens even. Identify your dominant eye, and when you go to mark the ball, if you're using the line, if you're using the logo, whatever you're using, only aim it with your dominant eye. And when you step back and try and read a green, use only your dominant eye, and you will be much more successful in putting. I guarantee it.
Is that right? Because that's a very interesting thing to me, Mike. Because and I don't know if there's a trick to learning which which eye is dominant. Maybe you know that, and I'd love for you to share it if you do. But it's almost like what you're saying is close one of your eyes and then line up your putt, which is something, I don't know anybody that does that. And I'm not talking about on tour or anything like that, but just my buddies and I. I've never seen anybody close an eye and then line up the putt. It seems to make sense if you've got a dominant eye and you want your dominant eye over the ball and then looking at it with your dominant eye to try to figure out how the putt breaks. I've just never seen anybody do that.
Well, but I guarantee you've seen people plumb bob.
Oh, for sure.
When they plumb bob, most likely they're using their dominant eye. So
that makes sense.
Yep. Shooters. If you look at anybody doing any kind of shooting, they use their dominant eye. And so the easiest way is to do the thing where you hold your hands, as far out from you as you can, put them together and make a small little circle and make sure you're looking straight ahead and put an object in the middle of that circle, something small, and don't move your hands, don't move your head, close one eye. And if it disappears, then that's not your dominant eye. If you close your eye and it stays, the eye you're looking through, that's your dominant eye.
That's
and
awesome.
So just think about that concept. If you're just sitting there looking straight ahead at something, and you've got those hands in front of you and you close one eye and that object moves, I mean, your hand, the object that you're looking at with the non-dominant eye is going to be either far off to the left or far off to the right. So now your brain's struggling, fighting between those two. Which one's it really aiming at if you're looking with both eyes?
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. I'm going to try that right after the show and try to figure out what I'm doing. Maybe that's going to be a key to me making more putts here in 2026.
There you go.
So, Mike, let's back off from the green and make our way back to the tee, kind of more broadly. What are a couple of things that our listeners should also do, whether it's within the short game, their iron play, or just trying to hit straighter drives in 2026? What are some things we can prepare to play our best as we move back from the green?
All right, I'm going to tell you might get on my soapbox here for a minute. Most people, even my members at Big Canoe, when I ask them, what golf ball do you play? The most common answer I get is either what I dug out of the creek the hole before or whatever I found in the woods. So, but then you ask them, do you want to be consistent in your golf game? Of course I do. Everybody wants to be more consistent. But the one piece of equipment you're using on every shot is the most inconsistent. And the biggest answer I get when I ask them what golf ball to use, they say, I'm not good enough for it to matter. I would argue that that's when it's even more important for it to matter, because the guys and girls on TV, they're so good, they know they can get away with a different type of ball if they had to. But the average golfer, when they're putting and chipping, that's where it means the most. Because think about if you chip, when you're warming up for a round of golf, you throw a couple of range balls down and you chip with them. Range balls are hard. They don't get any spin. This time of year, they probably have sat out there on the range all night. They're frozen. They're hard as a rock. They're not going to get any spin. It's going to be a completely different performance than you get if you, say, hit a Pro V1 or a Srixon Z-Star. And it can mean the difference. The same motion, same everything. You put it on a robot, and that spin, the chip with the range ball is going to roll out, say 10 feet. The Pro V1 or the Srixon Z-Star or whatever ball you're using, if it's a tour level ball, it's going to hit and check. So you could be talking the difference between a 7-foot chip and a 15-foot chip. And so people always say, oh my gosh, they stress over having long putts. Well, there's no way to be consistent in your chipping to get it close. And also with your drives, if the ball you're using is changing constantly, because the same concept's true. if I use a range ball that has no spin, and then I go to a spinnier ball when I'm on the course, you're getting two totally different performances. And so you can't be consistent with your game if the one piece of equipment you use on every shot is not consistent.
No, that makes a ton of sense. Now, we've talked on this show a lot about getting fit for your clubs, right? I mean, one of the things that I hear people say all the time, very similarly to how you started that off, is, well, I'm not good enough to get fit. And I say the opposite to that, right? You're not good enough not to get fit because it's going to make a huge improvement in your game. But going down to the golf ball, you're 100% right. I mean, you go into the average guy's golf bag, you probably go into my golf bag. There's probably, 2 or 3 different styles of golf balls in there, to your point, whether you found it in the rough or in the trees or wherever you might have been digging golf balls out of, or you've just collected them over time. Hey, let me try a sleeve of this. Hey, let me try a sleeve of that. You got 1 of those, 2 of those, 3 of those, 4 of those in there. You reach into your golf bag when you've hit a bad shot, you need to reload or whatever. And the next thing you know, it's very different. And you're right. Then we scratch our heads and wonder why. Great point on your behalf.
And the other thing I get when they say, well, you just want me to buy the most expensive ball or the Pro V1 or whatever. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying pick whatever ball fits your price point and stick with it and use it during your practice sessions when you're putting and chipping, and also take that to the golf course and go out and practice on the golf course with that ball, so you know what your drives are going to do, what your irons are going to do. Because I see it all the time with members that'll, one time they're hitting a top flight and hit an 8-iron 150 yards, and then the next time they're hitting a Callaway Tour Soft or Chrome Soft, and it goes 150 yards, or 130 yards. So, I mean, you can have 30 yards difference in one club. That part of it's the ball. And people goes back to that point. They say, I'm not good enough for it to matter. No, that's when it matters the most.
No,
so
it
doesn't have to be the most expensive. Pick what if it's a Bridgestone E12 or E6 or whatever you can afford, buy you 3 or 4 dozen of them, stick them in a shag bag, take them out there when you're putting and chipping. Same thing with speed on putts. Oh, I didn't get the speed right. Well, the speed of a range ball or a top flight coming off the putter face is completely different than a Srixon Z Star or a Q Star or a Pro V1. So no, you can't get the speed right and be consistent if you're not using the same ball.
Yeah, no, I love that. And Mike, like I mentioned in your intro, you're the head golf professional there at Big Canoe up there in Jasper, Georgia, which is a beautiful part of our state. Talk about Big Canoe and what you've got available there.
Yes, we've got 27 holes of golf, 3 nines. And as you said, it is a beautiful part. It's like when you drive inside the gates. I tell people that I'm blessed to work there. And when you drive inside the gates, you can't be unhappy because it's like it's God's country. The total facility was founded in 1972 by Tom Cousins. You might know that name from the revitalization of East Lake. He was the big part of that. He passed away last year, and they honored him at the Tour Championship. And so he started the neighborhood up there as a mountain home getaway for some folks from Atlanta. And they had originally started with 2 9-hole courses. We currently call them Creek and Choctaw. And then they later added a third 9 called Cherokee. It goes over the mountain. And Creek runs around a couple lakes in there. You got views of lakes, several shots over lakes. Choctaw kind of sits down in the valley. And then you've got Cherokee that goes over the mountain. And so most of our guests want to play Cherokee because it's got some scenic views. Hole number 2 on Cherokee has about a 200-foot drop from tee box down to fairway. And then same thing with Cherokee 9 coming back on the other side, coming back down to the clubhouse. You got about a 200-foot drop from the tee box down to the green on Cherokee 9 there. And Creek and Choctaw, the original 18, I would call that our championship course. Both of those have been redone, renovated by Bill Bergen, and the last creek was 2021. Choctaw, we reopened last April 1st. Bill Bergen did a great job on the renovations and updates of those. And he's got a vested interest because his parents actually live in there. So he's got instant feedback, I think, every time his dad plays golf. I think he gets a phone call if his dad doesn't play well or has a bad hole. I think he gets a phone call or a text message about it. So it's a great place up there. It's a hidden jewel, I tell people. And like you said, it's a beautiful part of the country. We've got deer, turkey, bear, black bears in there. And so wildlife, it's just a great place.
Billy's a great friend of the show. He's been on many times, and we've talked an awful lot about his renovation projects. Last year, we did talk a little bit about what he's done up there at Big Canoe. Did you get to spend some time with Bill as he was going through the redesign?
We did, and it was funny because when I was first started up there in 2021, they were in the middle of the creek redesign, and the first time I met Bill, we went out to one of the holes, and the superintendent, Lydell Mack, at the time, he was with us, and the three of us stand there looking at one hole. Bill's talking about the playability of the hole and how he wants that shaped, and the superintendent's talking about, I'm not sure how we're going to maintain the hill there and the hillside and cutting the grass. And the golf operator perspective, I was sitting there thinking, how are we going to get carts all around the backside? We're going to have a retaining wall or some kind of fencing or something to keep carts from going off the back there. So it was just a unique perspective to see three different people thinking three different things about the same exact picture or hole you're standing there looking at, just because of the lane they're in, if you will, in the golf industry. One from the caring for it, one for getting the golfers around and the challenge of how it plays, and one for the safety of the golfers actually navigating through and what pace of play is going to be like.
Mike, just a couple more before I let you go. And also in your intro, I talked about your newly elected vice president of the Georgia PGA. Talk about the teaching programs that you guys have available through that Georgia PGA.
Well, I would say the biggest thing that most impactful thing we do with the Georgia PGA and PGA of America is the HOPE program, helping our patriots everywhere. It's a program that provides free golf lessons and on-course participation tournaments for our veterans that have been disabled through their service in the military. And it's impactful when you start hearing the stories, and you hear stories of veterans saying, I had a chance this morning, I woke up and thought I could either shoot myself and put myself out of my misery or go to this stupid golf class. And I went to the stupid golf class and it saved my life. And that's the only thing I want to do now. And so, if nothing else, with the PGA of America, we do nothing else, helping those folks that protected our country. That's probably the best thing going with the PGA of America and the Georgia PGA, and thank for all those that are running those programs here in the state of Georgia and across the United States.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Kudos to you guys for what you're doing for our military veterans. And you're not exaggerating when you say that there are a lot of people out there whose lives golf saved thanks to the programs that you've put together. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Mike, we talked about this a little bit in our email conversation back and forth leading up to the show, but you are also the mayor of the city of Flowery Branch, and that's the training camp home of the Atlanta Falcons. A couple of things I wanted to ask you about that experience, but first of all, what was it like being the mayor of a town for several years?
Well, it's one of those that when I first got into it, I had a friend. He was actually, when I was my previous life, I was a public school teacher and band director, and he was a band parent, and he was serving in our state senate. And he said, "What are you getting into with local politics?" And I was like, "What, are you kidding me? You're in the state senate. That's got to be way more stressful." And he said, "Nope, not by a long shot." And he said, "One out of every 50 votes I take or give or vote affects my constituents in my district. Every vote, everything you do affects everybody in your city. And those are the people you're going to see at the funeral home, at the grocery store, at church, at Chick-fil-A, anywhere you go, you're going to see them every day. So it was one of those that put it into perspective. But it's also probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life, because the real reason I got into it was I grew up in a city, Columbus, Georgia, that crime is pretty high there. And I didn't want to live there. I didn't want to raise my family there. And so when I was asked, why do you want to be mayor of the city of Flowery Branch? Short answer, because I want it to be a city that's safe, where my kids want to grow up and come back and raise their kids. And during my time in office, we a couple of times were voted the #1 safest small city in the state of Georgia, and I think we were #3 of all cities in the state of Georgia on the safest record. So we accomplished that, and it's a labor of love. The salary for it was a whopping $6,000 a year. And so through the years, we dealt with some, when I first got elected, we were just coming out of the real estate collapse of 2008. I served for 12 years as mayor. We went through COVID. And so through handling all those things, at the end of it, I was sitting at a council meeting, and my boys were currently 17 and 18 back then. I forget exactly how old they were, but I was at one meeting, a lady was yelling at us about an apartment complex that wasn't even in the city of Flowery Branch. And I had one son that was at a track meet participating, one that was at a baseball game, and I was missing both of them for this lady to yell at us. And I leaned over to the mayor pro tem. I said, "You're the first to know I will not be running for re-election this fall."
Yeah,
because I was missing too much of my boys' times, and you can't get that part of life back. So,
well, I certainly can understand that, and kudos to you for going through all of that. I mean, one of the things that I think about is in this social media era where people can hide behind anonymous profiles. Now, this lady was yelling at you right there live and in front of you. But a lot of times on social media, particularly on Twitter, which can be a cesspool of negativity at times, it's got to be challenging to be a mayor, because you can't make everybody happy. And people can come at you, like I say, and hide behind a fake profile, say anything they want, won't put their name to it, which makes it even worse. I can't stand when people go off on social media and it's, Yahoo 75436, is their profile name. And you got to put your name behind it. If you're going to go off and say something, you should put your name behind it. But I got to imagine in this era, you got an awful lot of things in that negativity world where people are saying stuff that, they won't stand by. It's got to be tough hearing that kind of thing all the time.
yes, and I tell people that at the end of the day, it was my primary reason was I was missing my son's events, but secondary was probably social media made that last year or so. It was just, excuse the language, but it was just made it hell, because you got people coming at you, and if I owned everything that they said I was getting under the table, I would be rich, and I'd have 4 houses on Lake Lanier, and I would have 3 or 4 exotic cars. And none of it was true at the time. I was driving a 2008 Honda Accord with 120,000 miles on it. And when they start coming to meetings and videotaping and then splicing it to make it look like you said something that you didn't, or things happened in orders that they did not, it's like, at that point, that's when I was like, I'm crying uncle, I'm out. At that point, I was 47 years old. I had served 12 years, so more than a quarter of my life was given to public service. And I don't believe in, I believe in term limits. I don't believe in, lifelong politicians. So it was just the time for me to hang it up, retire. And I'm thankful for the time. I'm blessed to have the time, the connections that I made through that. I loved serving, but it was a great time, and I'm glad it's over.
Yeah, that's a shame. It's a shame that it works out that way. And I hate that that's kind of ingrained now in our society. And someone's always going to come at you on social media. I just think that that's ridiculous. I hate that Twitter can be a cesspool of that stuff. It just, yeah, that just bothers me. So kudos to you for putting up with it for as long as you did.
Yep.
Mike, before I let you go, let our listeners know, how can they stay up to date with all the great things that you're out there doing at Big Canoe, whether they're following you online or they're doing it on social media?
Well, I do actually have social media personally. I believe it's at Mike Miller Time on Instagram and Twitter. And then there's several Big Canoe Facebook pages where you can kind of keep up with events going on. We are a private golf club, private golf community, but there are a lot of homes in there that are on the VRBO market. And we have lots of golf groups come up, guys groups, ladies groups come up and rent houses. And if you're renting a house in the neighborhood there, you can play the golf courses. And so we'd love to have you. And if anybody has any further questions, they can reach out to me on Instagram, on DM or Twitter. We'd love to help you. And if you have any questions on anything I can help with on the golf side of things, if you've got further questions about the putting or the golf ball, happy to have those discussions. Love talking golf. It's about a third career for me, but like the old saying is, if you do something you love, it's not work. And that's how I feel about my golf career.
That's fantastic. Mike, you're awesome, my friend. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to come and be a part of the show. I hope we get this privilege of catching up with you again soon.
Yes, sir. Let me know if you're in Georgia. We'll get you out Big Canoe and play.
I appreciate it. Take care, Mike. All the best to you and your family. We'll catch up soon. That is Mike Miller, folks. Again, at Mike Miller Time on Twitter and Instagram. I love that stuff early on and throughout the conversation, right? The putter too long, right? I love the idea that he gets you in there and put your hands on the shaft. Let's see, if you got the right size putter or not. What's the right one for you, right? That's a great innovative idea. Dominant eye. I'm going to try that when the show is over, right? Trying to figure out which one is the dominant eye and go from there, right? Start lining up putts with that eye. Hopefully that helps make them a lot more putts for me in 2026. So kudos to Mike for those tips. And then, right, the golf ball. Right? How often do we do exactly what Mike talked about? And you got several different brands and styles, maybe multiple styles of the same brand, but it's not a Pro V1. It's not a TaylorMade. It's not a Callaway, with this or that, right? You got multiple different brands of that ball, right? Sometimes you got the soft one. Sometimes you got the harder one. You reach into the bag, you put it down. All of a sudden, now your game's a little off, and you're scratching your head like, how did that happen? Why did it go that far? Why didn't it stop and check like it usually does? Right? That makes a ton of sense. Let's make sure we have the same golf ball, the same style of golf ball in your bag, and I think that that's huge. I mean, that's going to take a couple of strokes off your game right there. You find the dominant eye, suddenly start making 2-3 more putts around. The next thing you know, you go from shooting 85 to breaking 80. You go from 95 to breaking 90, whatever it is, right? Great stuff from Mike. I can't thank him enough. I really look forward to having him back on the show, I hope, a little bit later on in the year. Okay, coming up next is our resident director of instruction, Tom Purtzer. Before Tom wreaks havoc on the show, I want to remind you about our friends over at On Point Golf and their out-of-this-world On Point golf ball marker. And if you don't have one, folks, you really need to go check it out at onpointgolf.us. Get the #1 ball marker in the game of golf. On Point is the only 3-dimensional ball marker out there with alignment technology and a removable coin that is approved to use according to the rules of golf. As you know, putting is all about line and pace. Mark your ball with On Point, engage with your 3-dimensional ball marker, and have more confidence in your line. Execute the putt, and you're going to lower your scores. Do what the likes of Jim Furyk, PGA professionals, and amateurs alike are doing now. They use the #1 ball marker in golf, and they lower their scores. You know Ken Duke and Thongchai JD. They won for the first time on the PGA Tour in 2023, and they were using an On Point ball marker. Get yours at onpointgolf.us and make more putts. And oh, by the way, You can also customize the removable coin for any club, event, or corporate outing. They make really great tee gifts and custom products. That's also going to help lower your score. I use On Point ball markers. Mine is black and gold, 3D black golf ball with a gold line down the middle to help me line up my putts. It's like having a 15th club in my bag. It's helped my game. Why wouldn't you let it help yours? Again, onpointgolf.us. See what I'm talking about. Order yours today. And folks, if you haven't tried 2 Under yet, you really need to. Why? Well, from the first tee to the clubhouse, 2 Under's Joey Patch is going to keep you comfortable and locked in all round or all day. Build your own bundle by going online to 2under.com. That's the number 2, UNDR.com, and you're going to save 20%. And are you tired of boring golf clothes? Well, Sunday Swagger's changing the game with premium performance apparel that delivers the look and feel of $100 polos for much, much less, while never sacrificing style for comfort. Their bold polos, shorts, and outerwear feature 4-way stretch and moisture-wicking fabric that moves with you, whether you're crushing drives or you're crushing happy hour. With over 300 unique designs and vibrant colors ranging from their bestsellers like Jawbreaker to exclusive collaborations like Guinness, Sunday Swagger offers something for everybody. And their matching prints for couples, families, and children are flying off the shelves. You might even recognize some Sunday Swagger designs in popular Hollywood movies and TV shows like Happy Gilmore 2. How about that? Sunday Swagger is guaranteed to turn heads and spark conversation. Visit sundayswagger.com and join the Sunday Club for exclusive drops and member benefits. Sunday Swagger. It's your swagger. Embrace it. Own it. Now back in Next on the Tee with me is our resident director of instruction, Tom Purtzer. As you guys know, Tom is down at Twin Eagles Golf Club in Naples, Florida. You can also find him online at tompatry.com and on Instagram at tompatry.golf and at tpatrygolf. Be sure to subscribe. You hear me talk about this all the time, to that YouTube channel, because there are so many free golf tips and lessons available for you on there. All, again, completely free, folks. You might as well go out there and subscribe to it, but you do yourself a favor. It's going to help you play your best golf in 2026. And it's my honor that the Golf Magazine Top 100 Alumni Instructor is back with me again this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, TP, how are you, my friend?
Boy.
Right? How can we not have Tom Purtzer kick off the year in the very best way possible? Tom, how are you? How's your new year getting on?
Oh, is it another year now?
It really is. We've turned the calendar. I know.
I'm old.
I know you're old.
I'm old. I just lost track of time. What year is it, Chris? Is it 1990? What year is it now?
Yeah, you and I wish. Yeah. 2026. Come on, TP. Let's
go. Let's talk about the secondary of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Have you seen them? I didn't see them show up on Sunday night. They weren't there. Maybe you've spotted them somewhere. We may be able to use them this week against the Texans.
I have never seen 2 touchdowns scored when there was nobody within the receiver without a pair of binoculars.
It's hard. Yeah.
And then on a totally separate note, did you see who was fired this afternoon?
I did, as a matter of fact.
I'm so sad. That's so sad. So sad. Poor fellow. Poor fellow.
I know you're a big Harbaugh Brothers fan.
Bye, Johnny. Bye, Johnny. Bye.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it could be Tomlin could be right behind him if they don't win this game on Monday night. So you don't win any playoff games. You don't get to stick around. So
it doesn't really matter because my team is making tea times right now, so it doesn't really matter.
Hey, your Giants may get you a wide receiver in the first round, which I know would make you so happy.
I'm going to do this on the air, in spite of the fact that some people in the organization are good friends of mine. I'm going to say 2 words to you boys out there in Giant Land: offensive linemen. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. If they draft a wide receiver, I got to make sure Mrs. Patrick puts the net up outside the house so when you jump.
You got that right. It could be all over for me.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk some golf. And
Okay.
I want to start off the new year talking about new technology, because you were telling me that you've done something very unusual for a man of your advanced age. You have embraced AI. Tell everyone what you're doing and who you're doing it with.
So a young gentleman came to me about, because I'm going to be accurate here, and I'm going to look back in my calendar, as a matter of fact, to just make sure I'm accurate. I think it's 10 weeks ago now. I'm just trying to find this. There it is. And I'm gonna spell his last name. His first name is Patrick, Rawski, Roski, and he had gotten my name from somebody else and explained to me how a new AI platform. And I knew what AI was, but knew very little about it. And the bottom line is he wanted to use me as a bit of a guinea pig. So what we did in the next week or so was he asked me to load everything I'd ever written or kept record of onto this platform. I could cut and paste, like I could voice it in, I could do a lot of different. Anyway, long story short, over the next 2.5 weeks, I loaded about 800 pages of articles, tips, the entire 6-book approach book. Anyway, it came out to about 800 pages onto this AI platform. The AI platform then organized it in such a way that it was accessible when I, at the end of a lesson, summarized the lesson on a text platform for the student. Basically went over what we did that day, in shorthand. I could voice it in. The AI platform then went into the platform itself and organized from those notes I texted in, went and gathered information from all the things I put in there, and then texted the student a summary of the lesson, adding drills and comments that I would have made in longhand, if you will. And sent them a text that was a little more extensive about the lesson and things they could think about, drills they could do, et cetera, et cetera. And then, if they don't delete the text feed, which they shouldn't, at any point in time, they can go back in on a totally different topic if they wanted to. Say for 3 days from now, Chris, you took a lesson, but 3 days from now, you're working on something else. Maybe you're working on your putting or a bunker play or chipping or something. And you had a comment about bunker play. You said, can you give me some notes on bunker play? Give me some thoughts on bunker play. You would get a text back about my thoughts on what you should think about in bunker play. So you basically have a connection to everything I've ever done, written, or said at your disposal for no charge. And the other thing it does is, for about a week after the lesson, it checks in with you every other day and says, "Hey, Chris, did you practice today? Hey, Chris, are you doing your drills today? Hey, Chris, did you do this drill or that drill?" So it's a constant connection. I'm getting copied on everything in the meantime. So if I want to add something or delete something or edit something in some way, I can also do that from my side. So it's a total connective product between the teacher and the student, and a total depth of information that they can get anything they want by just typing in a text message and a comment or a question.
So even things that we haven't worked on yet. So in other words, to your
Correct.
point about bunker play.
That's correct.
If I started a lesson with Tom Purtzer today and we were just kind of going over, swing and stuff like that, and now I go to practice, but I haven't talked to you yet about bunker play. But hey, while I'm out here, I want to practice some bunker shots. So now I can tap into your teaching methods, the things that you have available about bunker play?
Absolutely. So let's say you took a lesson today, Chris, just to be clear, and we worked on your takeaway. And the whole lesson was about your takeaway. And you're going to get all the notes and comments and drills concerning what we did that day. But 3 days from now, you want to hit some bunker shots, and you haven't got a clue what you want to work on or what you should be thinking about. You can type in and say, "Hey, can you give me some thoughts about bunker play?" And you're going to get a whole scenario of what I think about bunker play, what you should be thinking about in a bunker, and drills you could do.
Do I also get access to those videos through that? I mean, you've got over 300 playing lessons, right? We talk about it all the time.
There's no video content yet. Right now we're working on two things. We're actually, I don't know if you've seen it or not. Have you seen Tommy Jr. yet?
Yes. As a
So Tommy Jr. is still being developed. He's a little bobblehead of me, and he is quite snarky. He's got that Brooklyn accent. He's a little snarky, and he's just being developed still. We're taking him on and off depending on how he comes through. We haven't really kind of perfected Tommy Jr. yet, but we're working on him, and he'll be on there too to talk to you. And then there will eventually be at the bottom of each lesson that you get, the synopsis of the lesson you get, there will be a video link that pertains to the lesson that's pulled off my YouTube channel that you can play as well. That is not available yet, which should be available, I would think, by February 1st. There'll be a connection at the end of each lesson. After you've read your notes, there'll be a link that you tap on and goes to a video. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. I guess, as you project out with AI, right? I mean, right now it's your assistant pro, but I've also started to see some things, and I imagine you and I are going to see some things in a couple of weeks when we're at the PGA merchandise show. But I think AI is coming for your job, right? I think AI is going to say, hey, Tommy boy, I don't need you anymore. Here it is.
Except that here's the only thing I'll disagree with you on, Chris. The average amateur player isn't skilled enough to interpret things correctly or read between the lines or interact and go back and forth on the finite things that have to be done in a golf lesson. So if I know you personally, and I know your golf swing personally, I know the idiosyncrasies of your habits and where you fall short. AI doesn't know that about you. AI just knows standard block information that's loaded into a platform. So, for example, I've seen this AI system with me work beautifully, but I've seen some things come through where it didn't say exactly what I wanted to say. The information was fine. It was good. It was good, solid information, but it wasn't exactly perfectly tailored to Chris. It missed a couple of nuances. So what I do is I go back in and I edit the feed and then republish the feed, kind of correcting my AI partner, saying, I'd rather you said it this way. I have the ability, when I get my copy, to give it a thumbs up and a thumbs down. The student,
so you're teaching it essentially, right?
Right. The student doesn't see this. I give it a thumbs down. The AI then says to me, what did I miss? And I type in what you missed. So now I've educated it, and it goes back and it resends you the entire notes again, rewritten again, and says something to the effect of, here's a little deeper here's a deeper response to what I said to you earlier.
Yeah.
So
I feel like you're teaching it, and eventually, right, and the 2.0 version, 3.0 version, whatever. I mean, AI is taking over everything anyway. We're all going to be, out of jobs here in 5 years anyhow.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think it's, eventually it's just going to learn. It's going to learn Tom Patrick. It's going to learn your style. It's going to learn what you want. You're educating it. It's going to learn. And eventually it's going to become Tom Patrick.
But nothing can replace my wonderful personality.
Well, that goes without saying. I mean,
exactly.
That's worth the price of admission on itself.
Exactly. So you can't replace that.
Of course not.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the other things, Tom, that, I ask myself typically at the first part of a new season, a new year is, what do our listeners need to hear from us? But, as I really started to think through that, they don't need to hear anything from me. They need to hear things from you. What do you think our listeners need to hear, need to learn as they kick off the 2026 season and as we look ahead to spring and that sort of thing when we can really get out there? But what are some things that you think the average golfer that wants to get better in 2026 needs to hear?
I just don't think in 2026, as much as we've preached this, Chris, and I'm going to give you two things. I still think that they bypass or think they can bypass some really important basic fundamentals, how they grip the club, their pre-shot routine, aim and alignment, their ball position, their posture and proximity, anything to do with the setup. They think, my setup's pretty good. My grip's okay. And, I had, this, I was on a podcast a few weeks ago with Mark Immelman, who you know, and he asked me what percentage of people walking through the door for take a lesson as recreational players grip the club correctly in their left hand. And I said 0%. Nobody walking through the door puts their left hand on the club correctly, with the exception of my advanced college player, my mini tour player, or my tour player. Nobody. So
Wow,
right
really?
away,
Nobody.
zero. I have not seen an amateur walk through my door I'll just use my last 3 years at Twin Eagles. There was a recreational player had their left hand on the club correctly. How's
Wow.
that? Yeah. Think about that. That's mind-boggling to me. So right away, if you don't put the club in your hands correctly, you don't have total control or consistent control of the club face. And the club face is king and path is queen. So without club face control, you have a problem. You have a real problem. So that's number one. Just basic. Do you do things fundamentally sound in your setup condition? And then number two is nobody has a plan. They just kind of, yeah, I'm going to go to the range, hit some balls. I might hit some putts tomorrow, or maybe on Thursday I'll hit a couple bunker shots. And there's no plan. There's no real laid out schedule. And I'm down here in paradise, right? I mean, probably 85% of the people that I teach and coach are retired or so successful that they can control their own schedule. So they have the ability in let's call it a 5-day golf work week. I'm just doing a 5-day golf work week. They have the ability to kind of lay out a schedule if they wanted that would get them into a more consistent flow of development. So I say to people all the time, how many times a week do you play golf? Well, I play golf 3 or 4 times a week. How many times a week do you practice golf? And they kind of go, well, I warm up. I go, well, no, warm up is not practice. Warm up is warm up. How many times do you go to the range and have a plan that you execute in a practice session? Well, I don't really do that. I go, well, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem, So they said, what should I do? I said, I sit down with them and we lay out a practice plan and a play plan. Listen, I say to them, listen, I'm never trying to keep you off the golf course. I love the fact you play a lot of golf. I love the fact you get on the golf course. But are you ready to get on the golf course? Have you put the work in that'll give you a chance to be successful on the golf course? Do you have a plan? And they go, well, I don't know. I don't really have a plan. So, I do 2 things in my career, Chris, as you know. I teach part of the time and I coach part of the time. And that's a coaching discussion when we sit down and let's plan out your week. Let's make a plan that week in and week out will allow you to at least have a chance to be successful.
So, Tom, let's take a little different bent to it, because a plan and what are we going to do and how are we going to execute and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I think we talked a little bit about this heading into the holiday season. But when you go into the holiday season, people start for the golf enthusiasts in my life, hey, let me get them a new driver. Hey, I want to get them a new putter. Hey, I want to get, and all that sort of stuff. And pretty soon, as we project ahead to the spring, right? I mean, everybody, all the club manufacturers will come out with the new latest and greatest. Again, we'll see a little bit of that when we go to the PGA merchandise show. But one of the things that I've talked to you and your peers about, and I've tried to stress during that holiday season, I mean, getting the latest and greatest driver. I mean, if your driver's 2 or 3 years old, I'm not sure how much better, 2 generations later, is this driver going to be for me, or is this putter going to be for me, versus taking that money, coming to see Tom Purtzer, getting the golf enthusiast a gift card or whatever it is to get lessons. I mean, what do you say to the person that is out there chomping at the bit when we'll see them at the PGA merchandise show? Hey, that's a nice driver, but how much have you spent on your golf with an instructor? How much money have you spent, to your point, at the range? Talk about, if we're going to have a finite amount of money to invest in my golf game this year, where should I put that money? With an instructor or the newest whatever it is?
I think, Chris, and I appreciate where you're going with this, because that's only going to help me. But I think, to be fair and be totally honest, it depends on the individual. I have people that walk through the door that, listen, have plenty of do-re-mi. There's no budget problems. And I look in their golf bag and there are antiques in the bag. I mean, antiques, like
Peeps.
Like they got an Edsel and they should have a Ferrari. I mean, it's just not even close. Yeah. So if that's the situation, we have to address that. That has to be addressed. I mean, and I'm talking. Let's be fair. I'm talking about people who can put the club on the ball, can make contact, are reasonable players. Maybe they're, let's call them in their teens, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15 handicap. They can hit shots. They can make contact, but they've got absolute antiques. And during a lesson, I'll grab a couple of clubs off my shaft wall in the learning center, Twin Eagles, and let's just use a driver for example. We've got a driver that's 6 or 7 generations old. Now, keep in mind when they may or may have gotten that club fitted 7 years ago, they were 7 years younger. Okay, their body was probably in a different condition from a strength and flexibility standpoint, and they're playing with a shaft that's probably a little too stiff and a little too heavy for them. Maybe they don't have enough loft in the driver. Any of these are possible. So I put something in their hand, just grabbing something, not as a fitting, just as based on my experience, some little guesswork. I put something together, I put it in their hands, I have TrackMan running, and all of a sudden their carry number goes up, 16 yards or 17, which is substantial, right?
Yeah.
And they go, what's this? Boy, this feels good. This feels different. Well, yeah, well, that's because it is different. I said, you know what? That was just a little bit of a guess. That was not a fitting. That was just a little guess I made based on some experience. We might want to just schedule a couple hours to come in here and hit some shots and try some different things in an actual fitting scenario. So that's one possibility. And then to your comment, I have a guy that walks in that, his equipment is pretty good. It's maybe a generation old. It's fine. He got it last year. It was fitted at the time, but he's making some bad golf swings. He needs me more. He needs me. Okay. So it depends on the individual and who walks through the door. No two situations are exactly identical. And then I got the guy who walks through the door. He's got antiques and he stinks. Well, he needs me in a fitting. So he's going to go, get some clubs fit and probably get some new equipment and sign up for some lessons. So it just depends on who it is, what their starting point is. And that's why Tom Purtzer will never be a method teacher, because nobody that walks through the door walks through identical to the person who walked through the door before them. They don't have the same strength, same flexibility, the same dexterity, the same balance capabilities, and or the same equipment, or maybe have the same time available in their life. So no two people are identical. How do you teach people an identical method? And that's why I've never been a big proponent of methods.
Well, and it's also why you're in the top 100 alumni coaches. So kudos to you.
Yeah, all that means is I'm old. That's all that means.
Wow, we've established that. One more before I let you go, Tom, because when you've worked on your own game, back in the day, you were telling me a few months back, you spent some time with Mac O'Grady, probably a name that most people not in our generation, they may have heard of, probably never have heard of, but Mac was a hell of a player, and now he's a great instructor, sought out by a lot of people. Talk about the time you spent with Mac and why you went to see him.
Yeah, I think, Chris, I was at a loss for the exact year when I talked to you about this, but I think it was in the mid '90s. I was at Westchester, and certainly knew who Mac was, and he's a different cat. He's a very different cat. But I knew what a player he was. I knew that his reputation as he stopped playing and teaching was very well thought of. He was in Palm Springs. I had the winter off from Westchester, and I saved my pennies and I went to Palm Springs for 3 months. I rented a condo out there for 3 months, with both the idea that I was going to play some mini tour events that winter and spend as much time as I could with Mac if he would have me, because he doesn't have everybody. He's a pretty tough guy to get. He doesn't let everybody in the gate. Let's just put it that way. But he agreed. He let me come out, and I spent 3 months with him. And I got to tell you, I learned a ton that winter from him about the mechanics of a golf swing. I think you might know this, Chris. His goal on tour was to lead a tournament 3 rounds right-handed and come out in the 4th round and play the 4th round left-handed and win, which he never did. But I saw him hit multiple shots and played golf with him that winter quite a bit, both right-handed and left-handed. And when I tell you the motion was identical, the contact quality was identical, the trajectory and curvature of the ball based on the side of the ball he was playing on was identical. It was I've never seen anything like it in my life. The 2 people that fascinated me the most in my career swinging a golf club were Mac O'Grady and Mo Norman, both of whom I had the privilege of seeing live and up close. A brilliant guy, a very quirky guy, a different cat, but so smart in his golf IQ. It's just off the charts.
Tom, as you know, coming up after you is my monthly visit with Dr. Bob Winters. I know you guys have shared some clients, some kids in the past, and you've got that going on. I know you just recently spent some time together with a young lady that's working with Dr. Bob. You know, Mark Calcavecchia is up after Dr. Bob, and you've spent some time with Mark. You competed with Mark back in the college days. I just wanted to give you a moment to talk about both of those guys.
So let me start from the back and go forward. Mark Calcavecchia was at the University of Florida when I was at Florida Southern, and probably one of my all-time favorite personalities in college golf. Just an absolute riot to be around. He had the happy-go-lucky side, he had the intense side, and he had the volatile side. And I liked all three of them coming out of his mouth. He didn't hold back. He didn't mince any words. Super talented. Always was extremely nice to me. But I had a lot of respect for that game. He was on a very, very, very good Gator team that had a lot of future tour players on it. Obviously, as you know, won a major at the British. And just a great guy. And please say hi for me. I haven't seen him in a long time. And it's funny, as we get a little older, our paths don't always cross as much anymore. And those are the kind of guys I miss seeing. But he's a great dude. And then we played some mini tour golf as well on Space Coast when after we get out of school together. Dr. Bob Winters is forget the fact that he's phenomenally talented at what he does, because he is. He is one of the very best in the world at what he does. Here's the thing about Bob Winters I like the most. He truly 110% cares about every person he comes in contact with. And there are guys that are good at what they do, but when your hour with them is over, they kind of go on their way and you go on their way. Bob Winters, when you're out of sight, you're not out of mind. When you're out of sight, you're not out of mind. He's still thinking about the session he just had with you and what he could have done better, and he might circle back to you. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Bob Winters, and every time I spend time with him, I'm better for it. I hope he feels the same way about me. But a guy I have a lot of respect for.
Tom, before I let you go, remind our listeners again how they can stay up to date with you on social media, online, and on that YouTube channel.
TikTok, Instagram.
Oh, the TikTok. That's right. That's a new thing, right?
TikTok's going. Instagram.
Wow, look at you.
LinkedIn, Facebook, and then, of course, the website is just tompatry.com. But bi-weekly, I'm on a podcast called Next on the Tee. I'm on there with a guy named Chris Mascaro. I think I've been on there like 3 or 4 times at least now. And it's something I look forward to every other week. I just got my schedule from Chris for the next season. He's got me booked 175 times. I won't be able to see my family this coming year because of him.
That's how that goes.
But
priorities.
Pal, all kidding aside, we speak almost every morning. People on air don't necessarily know that. We have our daily morning phone call, chewing the fat about sports every morning. Being on this podcast with you has been a blessing to me. I enjoy coming on with you. I enjoy our morning calls. And you're the very best at what you do, pal.
Oh, that's right back at you, my friend. No one loves you more than me. Don't ever forget that.
Tell Calc and Bob Winters I said hi.
I will absolutely do it. Take care, TP. We'll catch up. We'll catch up tomorrow, but we'll catch up with you here on the show in a couple of weeks.
You got it, buddy.
See you, man.
Bye.
That's a great Tom Purtzer, folks. Don't get better than that guy. Unbelievable instructor, and just on top of that, a 10 times better human being and friend than he is an instructor. So always blessed to have him as part of the show. Always blessed to be able to kick off a new year with him. And yes, I've got him booked. It's not that many times, but look, how many weeks are there? Right, 52 weeks. He's on every other week, so there's at least 26, and we usually sneak in a couple of special episodes here and there. So looking forward to catching up with him here on the show in a couple of weeks. Tomorrow when we talk, and then certainly at the PGA Merchandise Show. No better guy to walk around the floor of the show than Tom Purtzer. Can't wait for that. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on part 1 of this week's show. My sincere thanks again to Mike Miller and Tom Purtzer for joining me this week. Now be sure to come back for part 2 because the confidence doctor, Dr. Bob Winters, kicks off 2026 with us. And we catch up with our great friend, Mark Calcavecchia. And you know how much I love both of those guys. Dr. Bob has meant a great deal to the show over the last couple of years. And Mark Calcavecchia has been a wonderful friend with great stories and great insights for the last several years. So both of those guys are going to be great. You know they are. So come back, press play on part 2. I know you're going to love that part of the show as well. Folks, I can't tell you how grateful I am enough for you guys being the greatest supporters in the history of podcasts, bar none. I appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, hit 'em straight, my friends.
Thanks for joining Chris again this week on Next on the Tee. We hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we did. Please share the show with your golf buddies and be sure to follow it on Trib Live or your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Thanks for pressing play and being part of the journey. We'll see you next week, right here, where the best minds in golf share their stories.